How do we handle the county's need for space in its buildings? This is a two-part question. And what would you do about the allergy-inducing atmosphere in an engineer's office?
First of all, I would be looking for a new location for the engineering department. Mold is very hazardous to your health. It's also increasing our health costs. When they are there, it's also increasing their sick time leave because they're not doing their job. I believe that we should, if nothing else, temporarily put them in the annex in the upstairs part to remove them from that environment so they no longer are getting sick. And how should I, what was the first part?
How would you handle the need for space?
Need for space. At the current time, you have the annex that they have purchased, and so, but I would, in that case, just move the engineering department into that particular area until sufficient space can be found.
Trying to take care of space needs is a huge problem. And we did purchase the former Masonic Temple. And the reason that we did purchase that was because about 2 years ago, the treasurer came to us and said that Homeland Security had notified them that they were going to have to make a number of changes in the treasurer's office because of the possibility of identity theft. When we started checking on prices of putting in new windows, new doors, new roll-down windows where the customers were served, wiring it for alarm system, it became apparent that in an older building like the courthouse that was going to be a very expensive undertaking. So we started looking at different options. And Masonic Temple was put up for sale at that time. If we moved the treasurer up to the first floor, then we were going to have to find a place for the auditor. And the auditor had to get a number of new voting machines because of the 2000 elections in Florida and securely store them, where before they had one machine and one that they rented, and people brought their ballots to the courthouse, and in the new regulations they had to have a machine for each precinct, the courthouse, and a backup. And so there was a lot of space that was going to be needed for them. The clerk of courts, the state was filming all the court records, and they decided that it was too expensive, so they stopped one county before Iowa County. So the move over to the building we felt was the safest need, and we did have the assistant engineer recently come up, and he has measured the space in the annex to see if we could possibly work out where the engineer can move up to that space. And we also checked out new buildings and other buildings that might be available. The new building was going to cost $500,000. I think the money would be better spent on roads than spending $500,000 for a new building. So I think the
30 when it's done. It'd be hard to imagine a better deal than that. As far as the sheriff or the engineer's office, we're working on that right now. We've got a committee of the engineer, the assistant to the engineer, 2 supervisors, our maintenance man, and we're meeting to see if we can come up with some options. But one problem with that is the engineer's office has to be in Marengo. It can't be anywhere else by law.
I'm one that I've never been in favor of buying that building. I felt that we had the whole sheriff's office, if we needed storage, that would have been an adequate place for us to do that. The other day I was in the courthouse. I went down in the basement, or the lower floor. I didn't see anything down there, so I don't know what they're using that for. But as far as the engineer's office goes, this is something that I think we need to get addressed. We need to get addressed ASAP. I think we got long-lasting repercussions that could be coming out of that with the mold. That's a dangerous situation. I think it was there when we bought it, and somehow got missed, and that needs to be corrected. And where we're going to put them, I don't know. But if they fit in the annex, so be it. But we need to get them out of there.
I'm the only person that voted no not to buy the annex. I didn't think we needed it then. I don't think we needed it now. But it's done, and it's fixed up. And so we will continue to use it. But the basement or the lower floor of the courthouse is empty. I think it would be nice to move the engineer department into the basement. I've already talked to them about talked to the engineer, and they said the annex would be too small for their department. So they couldn't